Today, we find ourselves out in the very early morning hours along the former Boston and Albany Railroad, better known as the B&A. Chartered in the 1830s and later absorbed into the New York Central, the B&A was the Central's vital eastern gateway, engineered to conquer the grades of the Berkshire Hills and link Boston with Albany and the Midwest beyond. We're in Chatham, New York, a location that once served as a major junction of the New York Central system. From here, one main line carried traffic east and west between Boston and the Midwest, while another connected New York City with Albany and beyond. While many traces of the B&A and New York Central are long gone from this location, this line remains very much alive today under CSX transportation. Chatham now sits along CSX's busy east-west freight corridor. The Berkshire Subdivision, handling intermodal, manifest, and unit trains moving between New England, Selkirk Yard, and points west. Though far quieter than it was in New York Central days, the echoes of its railroad past are still present as modern freight continues to roll through this historic junction. Modern New England railroading is growing on the two Class I railroads dominating the Northeast. CSX and Norfolk Southern both have a high stake in the intermodal market. Westbound Priority Intermodal I-017 is a prime example, linking Worcester, Massachusetts, growing intermodal terminal with Bedford Parks in Chicago. I-022 is another intermodal running to Worcester, this time coming from DeWitt Yard in Syracuse, New York. And like the train we saw before, it's carrying a healthy supply of UPS traffic and piggyback trailers. It's nice to see this type of traffic still going strong on CSX. Leading this priority intermodal train is one of CSX's rebuilt AC-44 CWs, which is now plentiful on CSX rails as of January 2026. mentioned earlier that modern railroading in New England is seeing renewed growth among the Class 1 carriers, and this next train is perhaps the best example of that trend. As of January 2026, Norfolk Southern now operates double-stack intermodal service to and from Ayer, Massachusetts via CSX. What you're about to see is the first westbound movement back toward Chicago, ultimately Norfolk Southern Train 265. NS-265 is running on the former Boston and Albany Railroad to Selkirk, utilizing the newly completed Voorheesville Runner, before transitioning onto the NS Freight Line and the former Delaware and Hudson line for the trip west. Just a few months earlier, in the summer of 2025, we chased one of these trains when it was still operating in single-stack configuration over the scenic former Boston and Maine route, a line that has since seen the end of that service. That video goes into much greater detail on this routing, so be sure to check it out. Rightfully so, many rail fans were out chasing the new-look NS-265 as it made its way down the line. We, however, shifted gears to another stretch of historic Boston and Albany trackage that runs right through the quaint village of Hudson, New York. We received word that CSX Local LO22 was ready to head out for ADM milling. What makes this move especially unique is that LO22 still street runs through the small town of Hudson as part of its local route, a rare and increasingly uncommon sight on today's Class 1 railroads. Seeing a pair of SD40-2 street running in today's railroad world is a sight on borrowed time indeed. Today, ADM Milling is the sole customer on this line and the only assignment handled by CSX Local LO22. While the job is fairly consistent, the work itself is anything but simple, with tight clearances and complex switching required along the route. This line traces its origins back to the Hudson and Boston Railroad, chartered in 1855, before being acquired by the Boston and Albany in 1870. When the B&A was absorbed into the New York Central around 1900, the line became a connecting track to the main line at Chatham, serving several mills and other industries that once lined the route. Over time, under Penn Central and later Conrail, the line was gradually cut back as traffic declined. Today, it survives as a lone remnant of its former self, operated by CSX and kept alive solely by LO22's work to ADM Milling. This line is hanging on by a thread, but the history of the Hudson and Boston's ambition to stretch a main line from the Hudson River to Boston was realized throughout history in other ways. We talked to a few villagers, and they said the street-running train attracts visitors from all over the tri-state area, and for good reason. Street running is becoming more rare by the decade, and this is a reminder to get them while you can, as they most certainly will not last. Here we see LO22 returning from ADM, street running back toward the Amtrak Hudson line before heading for Selkirk Yard. This time with 8846 leading the way with a whopping 40 empty grain hoppers in tow. Thank you for joining us on this short but sweet journey along historic former Boston and Albany trackage in Columbia County, New York. Be sure to check out our other videos and leave a comment on this one or others. We love responding to them. And wherever you end up trackside, happy rail fanning. We'll see you on the next one.